I joked, "Will you marry me on our first date?" She smiled. "I hope you keep that promise." A little awkward, a little funny, and if all went well, ending with a polite handshake or maybe a second meeting. But here, on the observation deck of the Starship Horizon, nothing about this date was simple. The stars outside the wide glass windows stretched endlessly, pale blue and silver against the black of space. Elias had flown for days to reach this remote outpost on the edge of the Coalition sector, a place where humans rarely went unless on official business. And yet here he was, waiting for someone who wasn't even human. Lyric stepped through the sliding doors. She moved with a fluid grace, her features sharp but elegant, eyes reflecting the starlight like tiny pools of liquid silver. Elias swallowed, trying to remember all the diplomatic protocols he had rehearsed. The aliens of the Coalition prided themselves on precision, on adhering to rules that humans would call absurd. And yet somehow the small act of sharing a meal together had been arranged, officially for cultural study. Unofficially, he was beginning to feel something he didn't expect, nervous excitement. Elia's ward, Lyric said, her voice smooth, melodious, yet somehow unsettling in its neutrality. "I am pleased to meet you." "Lyrics," Elias replied, forcing a calm smile. "The pleasure's mine." They sat at a small table overlooking a nebula cluster, a scene of swirling colors that made the stars look almost tame in comparison. Waiters, mechanical and silent, brought small plates with foods that Elias could barely identify. Alien fruits glimmered with colors he had no names for, textures that were unfamiliar and strange. Lyrics ate gracefully, while Elias poked at his food, trying to seem sophisticated. "You humans are unpredictable," Lyrics said suddenly, her silver eyes studying him intently. "I am observing subtle emotional cues. Your culture seems chaotic." Elias laughed nervously. "Yeah, we like to keep people guessing." Lyrics tilted her head. "Is that intentional?" "Well," Elias said, taking a deep breath, "sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on the day, I guess." A pause followed. The air felt heavier somehow, charged with the weight of an unspoken truth. Elias could feel the regulations pressing down, the subtle expectation that he would behave formally, politely, and without emotional errors. He knew humans were considered weak in these settings, too emotional, too impulsive, too unpredictable, and yet he could not help himself. "What's the strangest thing you've done on a first date?" he asked suddenly, a mischievous smile tugging at his lips. Lyrics raised an eyebrow. "Strange, I do not understand the concept." Elias chuckled. "Well, on Earth, some people make jokes to break the ice." He leaned forward slightly. "For example," he paused, and then, before he could rethink it, he said the words aloud, almost laughing at their own absurdity. "Will you marry me on our first date?" The words hung in the air. Elias immediately regretted them, realizing that in human culture it might be a joke, but in coalition law, or at least in some alien cultures, spoken declarations could be treated as binding. Lyrics blinked slowly. Then, almost imperceptibly, she smiled. Not the polite, careful smile of a diplomat, but a real, small smile, soft and luminous. "I hope you keep that promise," she said. Elias froze. For a moment he thought he had misheard. Surely she must be teasing, or perhaps she did not understand English as humans did. He tried to laugh it off. I didn't really mean that." "I understand perfectly," she interrupted gently. "You spoke it as humor. Yet humans, your species, there is a certain power in such words. Commitment made lightly, yet accepted seriously, can be influential." Elias swallowed. His mind raced. He had read the diplomatic manuals. He knew that words could carry weight in alien legal systems, but he had never thought a careless joke could become a matter of interstellar protocol. "Wait," he said slowly. "Are you saying that I just promised something?" Lyrics nodded, her expression calm, almost unreadable. "Yes, you promised, and I accepted." Elias laughed nervously, a sound that was half amusement, half panic. Oh, that's great, really great. Just the kind of situation I hope to avoid. Lyrics leaned slightly forward, her eyes fixed on his. Do you understand what this means? You are now formally bound by my culture, by your words, and by the observation of the coalition. Breaking this bond could have consequences for your species and for your standing here. Elias felt the floor shift under him, though the table did not move. He had never imagined that a casual joke over dinner could result in something so serious. Consequences? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Yes, Lyric said softly, but there is also opportunity. Humans are fascinating. Your species has the ability to adapt, to grow, and to surprise. This bond, if honored, may demonstrate that humans have qualities the coalition has long overlooked. Elias leaned back in his chair, trying to process it. He had always thought that human strength lay in technology, in innovation, in their stubbornness to survive against odds. But apparently, in the eyes of other species, it was something far more subtle, their capacity for emotional honesty, even when reckless. He stared at Lyrics, trying to imagine what this would mean back on Earth. Would the diplomats believe him if he explained it as a joke? Would they punish him for inadvertently engaging in interstellar legal ritual? And yet, as he looked into her eyes, he felt a strange sense of calm. Somehow, this was right. Somehow, the universe, in its vast complexity, had placed him here for this absurd, terrifying, exhilarating moment. So, he said finally, leaning forward again, trying to regain some sense of control, you really accepted the joke. Yes, Lyric said simply. And you must keep it. Humans honor promises. Do you agree? Elias hesitated. He thought about the rules, the laws, the potential consequences, and then he thought about the strange pull he felt toward this alien being who could see through him, who could turn a careless word into a challenge and a test. I will keep it, he said finally. I promise. Lyrics's smile widened just slightly and something in Elias' chest tightened. It was a feeling he did not fully understand, a mixture of fear, hope, and something closer to joy. Good, she said. Then we begin something important. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of conversation. Elias tried to focus on the discussion of interstellar trade, alliance policies, and cultural exchange, but his mind kept returning to the promise he had made. He wondered what it meant for him personally, for humanity as a whole, and for this alien woman who had unexpectedly entered his life. Afterward, as they left the observation deck, a soft hum filled the corridors of the horizon. The stars stretched endlessly outside, indifferent to human worry, yet somehow in that vast, silent galaxy, Elias felt the weight of something both fragile and profound. A joke had turned into a promise, and promises could change everything. As he prepared to leave Lyrics for the evening, he realized something else. No matter what the coalition, the manuals, or the alien cultures said, he had made a choice. A human choice. One born of humor, of instinct, and of a willingness to stand by his word. That, he thought, was the true strength of his species. Lyrics's voice called softly as he turned away. Elias, remember, I hope you keep that promise. He smiled, a real smile this time, and nodded. I will. And as he walked down the gleaming corridors, he could not help but feel that, in a galaxy ruled by logic and protocol, humans still had the power to surprise, and perhaps even to lead. Elias Ward could not sleep that night. He lay in the small cabin aboard the Starship Horizon, staring at the dark ceiling as if the infinite void of space outside might somehow explain what had just happened. He had always thought humans' jokes, promises, and impulsive words were their private matter. But now, a single careless comment had bound him to an alien being, not just socially but legally, by interstellar standards. The memory of Lyrics's eyes, calm and silver, replayed in his mind. I hope you keep that promise. She had said it so simply, yet it felt like a challenge, a test. And for the first time, Elias realized that humans might not just survive in the galaxy because of technology or numbers, but because of character, integrity, and commitment. Yet there was danger. He knew that. By morning, the news reached him officially. The Horizon's command system had already flagged the incident to Earth's diplomatic council. The message was clear. Human ambassador has made binding verbal commitment with coalition citizen. Legal review required. Elias felt the weight of the words. His joke, something meant to break the tension, meant to amuse, had turned into a matter of galactic diplomacy. If he failed to honor it, humans could be seen as untrustworthy, unpredictable, or even dangerous. And the coalition, vast and ancient, did not forgive such things lightly. He had breakfast mechanically, his appetite lost among the alien foods he barely recognized. As he sipped a bitter, luminescent tea, Lyrics arrived, moving with the same serene grace as yesterday. She regarded him with curiosity as if she were reading an unsolved puzzle. "You have received the message," she said. Elias nodded. "Yes, and it's worse than I thought." Lyrics did not flinch. "It is as I warned. Humans' words carry unpredictable consequences. But it is also an opportunity. Not all species have the ability to surprise the coalition in such a way." Elias frowned. "An opportunity?" "Yes," Lyrics said. "You are showing them something new, that humans can commit, that your species has honor in ways others do not." Her words were strange, almost flattering. Humans valued honor, yes, but in small ways. Here, it seemed the galaxy had a different definition. Elias felt a mix of pride and panic. He did not want to fail, not for himself, not for humanity, and certainly not for Lyrics. The first challenge came quickly. Representatives from the coalition, alien species of all shapes, colors, and sizes, gathered for a formal review. Elias entered the council chamber, walking between towering glass walls that shimmered with holographic star maps. The assembly was silent, their alien eyes fixed on him. "You have made a verbal commitment," said a crystalline figure with a voice like chimes. "Do you understand the consequences of failing to honor it?" "I do," Elias said, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "And I will honor it." A murmur passed through the council. Some species were clearly skeptical, others looked intrigued. Humans were known for impulsive behavior, but rarely had anyone seen them stand firm under such circumstances. "You may not understand," said another counselor, a being whose skin shifted colors like a slow rainbow. "A promise of this kind is rare. In our history, few have been able to maintain it. Most break it in fear or doubt. Will you truly keep it, human?" Elias felt a bead of sweat trickle down his temple, but he held his gaze. "I will, not because I have no fear, but because I choose to keep it. My words matter, my promises matter, and if the galaxy cannot understand that, it will learn." The council remained silent for a moment, then, surprisingly, they nodded. Lyrics's eyes met his across the chamber, and he saw a faint smile. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it carried something powerful: trust. After the council meeting, Elias found himself walking beside Lyrics on the observation deck. The nebula stretched before them, a river of glowing colors that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. "You were remarkable today," Lyrics said. Few humans would have insisted. Elias shook his head. "I wasn't remarkable, I was just human. I did what humans do when they make a promise, we keep it." Lyrics's eyes softened, and for the first time she seemed almost tender. "It is rare for me to witness such resolve. Most species cling to logic, to self-interest, but humans choose, and that choice carries weight." Elias smiled faintly, feeling a strange warmth. "So what now?" "Now," Lyrics said, "we see how far your promise can reach. The galaxy watches. And some may wish to test it." Elias nodded slowly. He had expected this. In a universe governed by strict rules, some would not trust emotion. They would see his commitment as a weakness, a flaw to exploit. It did not take long. That very evening, A delegation from a nearby system arrived aboard the horizon. Their leader, a sharp-eyed alien named Thren, spoke with a voice like grinding metal. "You expect the coalition to accept such foolishness?" Thren demanded. "A human binds themselves to one of our citizens on a joke. You endanger more than yourself. You endanger your planet." Elias stood his ground. "I do not bind myself lightly. I made a promise and I intend to honor it. That is not foolishness, it is principle." Thren laughed, a cold, metallic sound. "Principle. In our galaxy, principle dies quickly. You will fail. And when you do, humans will be remembered as unreliable." Lyric stepped forward, calm but firm. "Elias Ward does not fail when he chooses to honor a promise. You may doubt him, but he has already shown strength you do not understand." Elias felt a surge of pride. Lyric's words were not just a defense, they were a statement. Humans had something that others did not, the ability to act, to commit, even when the odds were against them. That, he realized, was true power. Over the next few days, Elias and Lyric spent more time together. They trained, exchanged knowledge, and even shared meals. Elias began to notice small things about Lyrics that fascinated him. The way she analyzed human expressions, the subtle shifts in her skin when she experienced surprise or amusement, and the curiosity that drove her to question everything he said. One evening they stood side by side, looking at the galaxy spread before them like a canvas of lights. Elias broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder," he asked softly, "why the galaxy takes our little human emotions so seriously?" Lyrics considered this. "Because humans are unpredictable, and yet when you act, when you commit, it changes outcomes. Other species calculate probabilities. Humans create possibilities." Elias smiled. "I suppose a joke can become serious faster than you think." Lyrics chuckled, a soft sound that reminded him of wind through crystal. "Indeed, but your joke, your promise, may also change the galaxy." The weight of her words settled on him. Elias realized that his actions, simple, human, impulsive, could influence events far beyond his comprehension. That promise, spoken lightly, now carried the potential to reshape alliances, cultural perspectives, and even the way species perceived humans. He felt something stir in his chest, a mixture of fear, pride, and determination. The galaxy was watching. Others doubted him, but he would not falter. Humans had survived countless challenges, not because they were the strongest, but because they kept their word, faced danger, and acted with courage even when logic said otherwise. And now, for the first time, he understood the truth of Lyric's words. The galaxy does not understand humans yet, but it will. As the stars shifted slowly beyond the observation deck, Elias made another quiet promise to himself. He would keep this one too. Not for duty, not for fear, but because it was right. Because being human meant keeping promises, even when the universe did not expect it. The days that followed were filled with challenges. Other species began sending observers, watching every interaction between Elias and Lyrics. Analysts questioned human motives, skeptics tried to provoke emotional responses, and some even attempted subtle manipulations. But Elias remained steady. Through it all, he began to see a strange pattern. Human behavior, when honest and intentional, inspired curiosity and even admiration. Lyrics, observing him daily, seemed increasingly intrigued by the depth of his choices, by the simple, unshakable way he honored a promise made in jest. And Elias began to realize something profound. Perhaps humans' greatest strength was not their intelligence, their technology, or their survival skills. Perhaps it was something far more ancient, far more fundamental, the courage to choose, commit, and stand by their word, no matter the cost. That realization filled him with quiet confidence. The galaxy could doubt, could mock, could test him. But he had already taken the first step. He had spoken a promise, and he would keep it. As night fell over the horizon, Elias looked at Lyrics once more. Her silver eyes reflected the nebula's light, calm, knowing, and patient. She had accepted a human joke. And now, together, they faced the challenge of showing the galaxy what such a simple act could mean. And somewhere deep inside, Elias knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had a way of testing humans in ways no one expected. Elias Ward had learned that quickly. The joke he made, now a serious promise, had drawn attention from species who considered emotional attachment a weakness. Yet, paradoxically, that very human trait, commitment, honesty, courage, was beginning to unsettle them. It started subtly. Reports from coalition observers indicated that Lyrix's species, known for cold logic and analytical precision, was showing changes in behavior. They were curious, cautious, but undeniably affected. Emotions, something almost alien to them, were influencing decisions, discussions, even negotiations. And the humans responsible for this unexpected shift were Elias and his impulsive, heartfelt promise. The horizon hummed quietly as Elias reviewed data from the Coalition monitoring network. Analysts from Earth had been sent to observe, expecting standard diplomatic behavior. Instead, they recorded phenomena that had never been documented, a ripple effect of empathy, intuition, and even creativity spreading from Lyrix into her species' network. Elias rubbed his eyes. He could not fully comprehend it, but he felt a mix of pride and unease. Humans are contagious, he muttered to himself, in ways the galaxy never expected. Lyrix appeared beside him, her calm presence grounding him. Your species affects us more than you realize, she said. Your commitment, your choice, it resonates. I had not anticipated the magnitude. Elias tried to smile, but tension weighed heavily on him. That's good, right? I mean, we're supposed to be allies, not some kind of social experiment. Lyrix's expression softened. It is both. You are teaching us something humans often take for granted, that even in uncertainty, one may act with integrity. That emotion is not weakness, but a force. Before Elias could respond, alarms blared across the ship. The Horizon's communication system lit up with urgent alerts. A nearby hostile faction had detected the human-alien bond and interpreted it as a threat. They viewed emotional influence as dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially destabilizing. Elias Ward, Lyrix said sharply, her voice now tinged with urgency. They intend to challenge us. They do not understand humans. They do not understand what we are demonstrating, and they are preparing interference. Elias took a deep breath. He had trained for many kinds of challenges, diplomatic, technological, even minor security threats, but nothing like this. These beings were powerful, capable of manipulating systems and negotiations with cold precision. And yet he realized his strength lay not in technology but in integrity. They're wrong, he said quietly, almost to himself. They don't know humans. They think emotion is weak, but it's not. Not when we choose, not when we act, not when we keep a promise. Lyrix nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the lights of distant stars. Then we act together. The first attempt came within hours. Subtle disruptions in communication, false reports of diplomatic missteps, and veiled threats tested Elias at every turn. Analysts and observers tried to manipulate his actions, expecting a reaction driven by fear or logic alone. Elias stayed calm. Each time, he responded with honesty, with straightforward explanation, with clarity. He did not argue unnecessarily, but he did not back down. His choices, rooted in human values, began to confuse those who relied solely on strategy and calculation. You're unpredictable, Thren's metallic voice hissed over the communications network. You are an anomaly, a human capable of strength I cannot quantify. Your promise is meaningless, yet you persist. Elias clenched his fists. You misunderstand. The promise isn't meaningless, it's human, and humans keep their word. Meanwhile, Lyrix worked beside him, her species observing the humans with fascination. Her analytical mind began to adapt, incorporating empathy, intuition, and creativity, qualities humans took for granted but were alien to her. She began to solve problems in ways her people had never imagined. Elias watched her, a sense of wonder filling him. "You're changing," he said softly. "I am learning," she replied. "Not only from humans in theory, but from humans in action. Your species is remarkable." The challenge escalated. The hostile faction attempted direct interference, launching a subtle attack on the Horizon systems while simultaneously spreading propaganda designed to isolate humans from coalition support. It was a test of power, strategy, and patience. Elias knew that brute force would fail. He had no weapon that could overpower them. Instead, he relied on human ingenuity, quick thinking, adaptation, and emotional insight. He and Lyrics worked together, combining human intuition with her analytical processing. They anticipated moves, diffused threats, and communicated openly, turning what could have been chaos into a demonstration of competence and courage. Observers began to take note. Aliens from neutral factions whispered in council chambers. Humans' unpredictability, once considered a liability, now appeared as a unique strength. Their ability to remain steadfast in values while adapting to new information was becoming a lesson the galaxy could not ignore. Late one night after the system stabilized, Elias and Lyrics walked along the observation deck. The nebula stretched endlessly, glowing softly as if watching their progress. "You've proven something today," Lyrics said quietly. "Not just to me, but to the galaxy. Your species does not merely survive. You influence, inspire, and endure." Elias smiled, though fatigue tugged at him. "I never thought a joke could lead to all this." Lyrics's gaze met his, calm and penetrating. "A joke, yes. But a human joke carries weight because it is followed by choice, action, responsibility. That is something others cannot replicate, and it is powerful." Elias felt a mix of pride and humility. He realized that humans, with all their imperfections, their mistakes, and their impulsive actions, had something no other species could replicate: the ability to turn a small choice into something significant, even transformative. Over the following days, the hostile faction attempted multiple maneuvers, subtle sabotage, misinformation campaigns, and diplomatic pressure. But Elias remained steady. Lyrics adapted with him, her species beginning to value what she now called emotional insight. At one point, Elias was confronted by a coalition counselor known for cold logic. "Human," the counselor said, voice sharp, "your actions defy reason. You risk instability. Your species is reckless." Elias looked him in the eye. "I may be reckless by your standards, but I am honest, I keep my word, and I act with integrity. That is what humans bring to the galaxy. You may call it reckless, I call it responsibility." The counselor paused, taken aback by the simple clarity of the statement. Elias realized then that humans' greatest power was not in dominance, or speed, or technology. It was honesty, commitment, and courage in the face of pressure. The culmination of the faction's challenge came in a direct confrontation. Their warship, sleek and menacing, appeared near the horizon. But instead of panic, Elias and Lyrics prepared calmly. They coordinated with coalition allies, using not just strategy but trust, intuition, and careful prediction of enemy behavior. When the hostile ship attempted to force a blockade, Elias anticipated their maneuvers. Lyrics adapted quickly, coordinating her species' systems in ways no algorithm could predict. The combination of human creativity and alien logic turned what could have been disaster into a demonstration of human adaptability and resilience. The hostile faction, observing the unexpected outcomes, began to withdraw, unsure how to counter this strange blend of courage, commitment, and ingenuity. For the first time, they realized that humans were not weak, not reckless, not naive. They were unpredictable and unstoppable in ways they could not measure. After the confrontation, Lyrics turned to Elias, a soft smile on her face. You have shown me and the galaxy that humans are not merely emotional beings. You are powerful. Not because you dominate, but because you endure, commit, and act with intention. Elias felt a warmth he had not expected. The challenge had been dangerous, exhausting, and terrifying. And yet through it all, he had discovered something profound. Humans' true power lay not in weapons or technology, but in character, choice, and the courage to honor promises even in the face of overwhelming odds. That night, as the stars stretched beyond the observation deck, Elias thought about the journey ahead. The galaxy had begun to take humans seriously, not as tools, threats, or curiosities, but as a species capable of shaping events through honesty, courage, and commitment. He realized with quiet satisfaction that his joke, his impulsive words, had sparked something far greater than he ever imagined. The galaxy would remember. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would begin to respect humans not for their machines, not for their numbers, but for something deeper, something far more enduring. Their choice to stand by their promises, no matter the cost. And Elias knew in his heart that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was watching. Every decision, every word, every glance between Elias Ward and Lyrics was being observed. To humans, it might have felt like a personal journey, a strange adventure sparked by a joke. To the coalition, it was a matter of politics, law, and influence. To a hostile faction, it was a threat, an anomaly that defied centuries of carefully maintained control. The warning came through the Horizon's communications system in the dead of night. A fleet of ships, larger and more heavily armed than any the coalition had authorized, was converging on the outpost. Their intent was clear: to challenge Elias and force him to break his promise. Lyrics's eyes, normally calm and measured, betrayed a flicker of concern. "They wish to test our bond," she said softly. "They seek to destabilize you, human, and through you, your species." Elias nodded. He felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Fear, because failure could have consequences far beyond personal embarrassment or discomfort. Determination, because humans, his species, had a habit of facing impossible odds and standing firm, not because they were fearless, but because they chose to be brave. "They're going to try everything," he said, pacing the observation deck. "Tricks, threats, maybe even lies. They want me to fail. They want to show the galaxy that humans are weak." Lyrics placed a hand lightly on his shoulder, a gesture both grounding and strange in its intimacy. "Do not doubt yourself. You are human. Your promise is not weakness. It is strength. And strength can endure trials that logic alone cannot overcome." The first trial came almost immediately. Subtle manipulations in communication, altered reports, and misinformation spread through coalition channels. Observers whispered, expecting Elias to panic, to break under pressure. Instead, he acted with calm and clarity. He verified information personally, refused to react to provocations, and maintained honesty in every interaction. Each choice he made, grounded in his human values, only made the observers more uncertain. "They do not understand humans," Lyrics murmured. "They do not understand how you operate. They measure probability, yet you create reality." Elias allowed himself a faint smile. "Guess that's part of being human, we improvise." The second trial was more direct. A delegation arrived on the horizon, led by Thren, the metallic-voiced alien who had challenged him before. Their aim was to undermine Elias publicly, questioning the legitimacy of his bond with Lyrics and suggesting that Earth itself was untrustworthy. "You endanger your people," Thren said, voice like grinding metal. "Your impulsive behavior risks coalition stability. You speak of promises, yet you may not even survive the next hours." Elias stood, meeting Thren's gaze. "I may not survive," he admitted, "but that does not matter. What matters is that I honor my word. Humans value their promises. You may call it foolishness. I call it integrity." Lyric stepped forward, her presence commanding yet serene. "He speaks truth. Humans are different. Their strength is not in weapons, but in action guided by choice. Your attempt to undermine him fails because you do not understand what binds us. The third trial was the most dangerous. The hostile faction launched a targeted attack on the Horizon systems, attempting to disable communication, navigation, and defense. The fleet outside grew closer, and tension mounted. Elias felt the adrenaline surge. He knew that if he panicked, if he acted impulsively without thinking, the consequences could be catastrophic. But instead, he relied on human ingenuity, quick problem-solving, and emotional insight. He coordinated with Lyrics, combining her species, advanced analytical systems with his own intuition. Together, they anticipated the enemy's moves, adapted to unexpected failures, and turned each challenge into an advantage. What the hostile faction intended as chaos became a demonstration of human resilience. Lyrics watched him closely, her silver eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and astonishment. Your species adapts in ways I cannot calculate. You act, and the universe changes with you. Elias felt a warmth he could not describe. The situation was dangerous, yet he found strength not only in his skill but in the bond he shared with Lyrics. That bond, born from a joke, strengthened by promise, was now their greatest weapon. The fleet outside grew impatient. They attempted direct negotiation, demanding Elias break the bond or face annihilation. They threatened humanity, Earth, and the coalition itself. Elias met their threat with unwavering calm. I will not break my promise. Humans do not abandon their word. You may attack, intimidate, or manipulate, but you cannot break what I choose to honor. For hours, the standoff continued. The hostile faction probed, tested, and threatened. Coalition observers held their breath, unsure if humans could endure. And then something unexpected happened. Lyrics' species, inspired by her observations of Elias, began to act. They implemented strategies that combined emotion, intuition, and logic, unlike anything the hostile faction had encountered. They adapted in real time, responding to threats not just with calculation, but with creativity and moral reasoning. Elias realized the truth. Humans' influence was spreading. Lyrics had learned from him, her species evolving because of human example. The hostile faction had expected chaos, fear, or submission. Instead, they faced cohesion, resilience, and unexpected ingenuity. Hours later, the standoff ended. The hostile fleet withdrew, uncertain and wary. The coalition, previously skeptical, began to acknowledge the human-alien bond not as a liability, but as a source of strength. Lyrics turned to Elias, her expression softening. You have passed their trials, not merely survived them. You have shown the galaxy that human commitment is formidable, that choice, honor, and courage are more powerful than any weapon. Elias exhaled, exhausted but triumphant. I never thought a joke could lead to this, but I guess that's humans. We make mistakes, we take chances, and somehow we endure. Lyrics smiled faintly, a small but genuine expression of warmth. And in doing so, you teach us something valuable. Not all strength comes from force. Not all influence comes from calculation. Some of it comes from the courage to keep a promise. Elias looked out at the stars, their light soft but infinite. He understood now that humans' true strength was not in dominance or technology, but in integrity, choice, and the willingness to act even when outcomes were uncertain. For the first time, he felt a profound connection, not just with Lyrics but with his species as a whole. The galaxy might test humans, might doubt them, might even fear them. But humans had something no one else did: the ability to commit, to endure, and to influence the universe in ways logic alone could never predict. As the Horizon continued its silent journey through the stars, Elias made a quiet promise to himself. He would not falter. He would not abandon his word. And together with Lyrics, he would face whatever the galaxy sent next. Because a joke had become a promise. Because a promise had become a bond. And because humans never gave up. And in that moment, Elias understood that the trials they faced were only the beginning. The galaxy had witnessed human courage, and the galaxy had changed. Not overnight, and not entirely in ways anyone could yet measure, but the shift was undeniable. Humans were no longer viewed as just another species in the coalition, impulsive, emotional, and unreliable. Instead, they were seen as something more, a species capable of courage, integrity, and influence beyond logic. Elias Ward walked along the observation deck of the horizon, staring at the swirling nebula below. The colors were brighter than usual, reflecting the subtle glow of the coalition outpost's lights. But the beauty of the stars was nothing compared to the weight pressing on him now. He and Lyrics had faced every test imaginable: misinformation campaigns, threats from hostile fleets, challenges to their integrity, and even direct attacks on the ship. And yet through it all they had endured, together. Lyrics appeared beside him, moving as gracefully as always, her silver eyes calm but bright. "The galaxy is watching, Elias," she said softly. "They observe our bond, our choices, and they are learning. Your species is teaching them something profound." Elias exhaled slowly. "I didn't come here to teach anyone anything. I came here to survive a diplomatic assignment." Lyrics tilted her head slightly, a faint smile touching her lips. "Survival is one thing, influence is another. You have done both." Their calm was short-lived. Alerts blared across the horizon, signaling a coalition council assembly called urgently. Elias and Lyrics exchanged a glance. They knew what awaited them, a tribunal to officially recognize their bond or challenge it. As they entered the chamber, the assembled representatives of countless species looked at them with a mixture of skepticism, curiosity, and something deeper: respect. For the first time, humans were being taken seriously, not because of technology, numbers, or strategy, but because of a promise kept. The council leader, a crystalline being named Varus, spoke first. "Elias Ward, human of Earth. Your actions over the past cycles have been unprecedented. You have faced trials designed to break you. You have maintained your commitment. You have demonstrated qualities rare among all species of the coalition." Elias nodded, keeping his voice calm. "I have acted as any human would. We make promises, and we keep them. That is how we operate." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many species had never seen such simplicity, such honesty, withstand intense scrutiny. Lyric stepped forward, her presence commanding yet serene. "He speaks truth," she said. "Humans are often unpredictable, but their unpredictability is guided by choice, integrity, and courage. Elias Ward has not only kept his promise, he has shown the galaxy the value of humanity." Varus paused, considering her words. Then, in a decision that would echo across star systems, he declared, "Let it be known. The bond formed between Elias Ward and Lyrics is recognized, valid, and binding. Not as a novelty, but as a legitimate alliance that demonstrates the strength of human integrity." Elias felt a rush of relief and awe. The council's words were more than recognition, they were validation. A joke that had become a promise had now reshaped the perceptions of countless species. Outside the chamber, the galaxy felt calmer, though Elias knew that peace was always temporary. Challenges would arise again, conflicts would spark, and tests would continue. But something fundamental had changed. Humans were no longer underestimated. Lyrics moved beside him, her expression softening. "You have proven that strength is not only measured in weapons, in numbers, or in control. Strength is measured in choice, in commitment, and in courage. And your species embodies that." Elias smiled faintly, feeling a warmth that had little to do with triumph and much to do with understanding. "I only did what humans do. We act, we commit, and we keep our promises even when the universe tries to break us." The following cycles brought both challenges and recognition. Humans began to be invited into negotiations not just as observers, but as active participants whose perspectives were valued. Scientists noted subtle changes in coalition species who had interacted closely with humans, enhanced creativity, empathy, and adaptability. Elias watched all of it with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy had begun to understand humans not as weak or chaotic, but as a species whose unpredictability was a form of power, a power rooted in choice, commitment, and integrity. Yet, amid all the political and social upheaval, there was something more personal at stake. The bond between Elias and Lyrics had deepened beyond diplomacy or survival. It was no longer just a promise. It had become connection, understanding, and even affection. One evening, as the twin moons of the outpost cast silver light across the horizon, Elias found himself standing beside Lyrics on the observation deck. The stars reflected in her eyes, soft and deep, as if they held the weight of countless galaxies. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. "The galaxy, your species, and me." Elias chuckled softly. "I didn't mean to. It started as a joke." Lyrics's smile was faint but real. "Perhaps jokes are not always meaningless. Perhaps sometimes they carry the seeds of transformation. Your joke, your promise, has shifted the balance in ways I never imagined." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. "I hope I've kept that promise well enough." Lyrics looked at him with a quiet intensity. "You have kept it beyond expectation. That is why the galaxy listens. That is why we endure. And that is why I trust you." Her words were simple yet profound. Elias realized that trust was the essence of all strength. He had promised and he had kept it. And in doing so, he had not only influenced the galaxy, but also shaped a bond that transcended species, culture, and expectation. The following days were filled with recognition. Humans were no longer seen merely as newcomers or curiosities. Alliances were formed, agreements were honored, and other species began to experiment with cooperation in ways inspired by the human example. Elias and Lyrics became symbols, not of conquest, nor of technological superiority, but of integrity, courage, and emotional intelligence. News of their bond spread not as gossip but as a lesson, a reminder that the simplest human traits, honesty, commitment, and choice, could reshape even the vastest of civilizations. Through it all, Elias never lost sight of the promise that had started it all. He had spoken words in jest, yet he had honored them with deliberate intent, courage, and persistence. And in doing so, he discovered the true power of humanity, not in weapons, strategy, or technology, but in integrity, resilience, and the willingness to act according to one's word. Lyrics often observed him quietly, noting his choices, his reactions, his determination. She had learned much from humans in a short time, but the most important lesson she realized was this: human strength was not predictable. It could not be quantified. It could not be calculated. It was a living, breathing force that grew from commitment, empathy, and courage. The galaxy had begun to recognize this truth, and Elias, standing once again on the observation deck, felt a quiet satisfaction, not pride but understanding. Humans were not just surviving in the cosmos, they were shaping it. He turned to Lyrics, his silver-eyed companion who had once accepted a joke as a promise, and now stood as a partner, an ally, and perhaps more. "I kept the promise," he said quietly. Lyrics smiled, a rare, unguarded smile that reflected both admiration and something deeper. "Yes. And in keeping it, you have changed more than either of us could have imagined." Elias looked out at the galaxy, its infinite expanse no longer intimidating but full of potential. Humans had begun their journey in space as observers, as curious newcomers. Now they were recognized as a species whose choices could influence civilizations, whose integrity could command respect, and whose courage could shape futures. And all of it had started with a joke. The stars twinkled, endless and indifferent, yet somehow brighter than before. They seemed to echo the truth that Elias had learned. Strength was not measured in power alone. It was measured in promises kept, courage shown, and choices made in the face of uncertainty. He and Lyric stood together, the bond forged from a joke now a force recognized across the galaxy. Humans had proven their worth, not through conquest or cunning, but through something far more enduring: honesty, commitment, and the courage to stand by one's word. And in that moment, Elias knew the universe would never underestimate humans again, because he had kept the promise. And that promise had changed everything.